Well, hello and welcome to Homestead Happenings. How is everybody doing? I am back home for my rest break from trucking, and as all of you guys know, there was a big hurricane disaster, Hurricane Helene, that came up through Florida, Georgia, but really did significant damage off the coastline in the western portion of North Carolina and the eastern portion of Tennessee. Well, guess what, guys? I was there. I was there on my runs. I do runs that take me to North Carolina. And I spent the night, Thursday night, when a big portion of the storm came in. I was west of Charlotte, making my last delivery on Friday morning. And when I got done with that, I was scheduled and planning to take I-40 back west to get back to Arkansas, and that didn't happen the way I was planning. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what would we do if this storm hit this area, because it really could have gone a little west and done the same kind of damage out here in the Ozarks that it did in the Appalachian Mountains. And what would we do if we lost power for weeks at a time, which is what a lot of people and communities there in North Carolina are dealing with. And luckily for us, All Power reached out to us and wanted to do a collaboration. So we took them up on the offer, and let me show you what they had sent us. So this is the All Power R1500, and it is an 1800 watt battery pack, and we have the solar panels that go with it. These solar panels right now are in the shade, so it's only producing about 5 watts, but later on today it will be in the sun. And this unit actually features, it has a DC output, it has 2 UBS-A and 2 UBS-C, and it has 4 110 connections on it so that you can get power, and it has 2 wireless phone chargers that you can use, which is a really great feature to have. Now, if we lost power for a significant amount of time, we do have a generator. But this unit will come in handy because you don't want to run a generator all night. And we could, at the very least, plug our 3 freezers, which are full of meat, into this at night so we can shut our generator down and recharge it either with solar or with the generator. And we'll go through a few of the other features with this in a moment, but I wanted to let you guys know a little bit about what I saw when I was in North Carolina. So it was about 9:30 in the morning, Friday morning of the storm, and I came out of the distribution center where I was making my last drop, and was getting ready to head west, and that's exactly what I did on I-40. And it didn't take long. I was about 50 miles outside of Asheville when I started seeing signs on 40 West that said not just 40 West closed, but all roads leading west into Tennessee were closed. That's very alarming. So I got on the phone with my dispatcher, who got online and went to the North Carolina DOT to see what he could find out about what was going on. And we found out that I-40 was closed east of Asheville on that mountain range, and then in what we call in trucking the Gap, which is, it's a pass through the Appalachian Mountains between Tennessee and North Carolina. That's on the western side of Asheville. That was also closed. But the postings were saying things were probably going to open back up a little bit in the afternoon. So the plan moving forward was for me to at least try and get into Asheville, take my 10-hour break, and reassess and see if I could go west the next morning. Thank goodness that plan didn't work out, because I would have been trapped in Asheville for pretty much a week with a big truck like that. And what happened was I got another 20-30 miles down the road, and they closed the road. They closed the road there. They were turning big trucks around in the median and sending them back the other way. So that's what I did, and my radio started blowing up. People were saying that the mountain had slid down onto the highway on the eastern side of Asheville, and that the road was literally gone coming through the Gap. And because it was on the radio, you're left with your imagination to figure out what was going on. So, okay, no problem. I says, let me find an alternate state road and see if I can head north up into Virginia and come around the Appalachians that way. And that's what I did. I forget the route number, but I headed on this road, a state road that would have taken me up into Boone and then into Johnson City and into Virginia on 81. And the devastation that I was seeing once I got off the freeway was incredible, guys. There was, most of those communities are situated by a river. That's how a big chunk of America is situated, where most of your towns are by a river. And as I was trying to navigate up through there along with everybody else, I saw two strip malls. One strip mall, the first strip mall, the road is here, and then there's a down lower area on the below the road, and then the river was behind it. That first strip mall was underwater. All you could see were some standpipes coming up and the air conditioner units on the roof of the strip malls. And you wouldn't even know they were strip malls in there, except for the big sign that listed all the stores that were in it. And the river was just raging past it there. It was completely flooded out. You could see debris and trees. I saw a refrigerator or a freezer of some kind floating by. It was just so much devastation in that area. And there was tons of roads that were closed just because water had flooded over the road. And it was pretty bad. And I went a little bit further, And then again, I saw another strip mall business in the same scenario, a little bit lower to the road with the river behind it, and that was also flooded right to the roof, along with all the other trees and power lines down. It was just complete and total chaos. But I didn't make it much farther than that, and I came to a highway intersection, state highway intersection, and the road north was closed up solid. When I got up to the turn, I asked the officers there what was going on, and they told me all roads to Boone are gone. They're not blocked, they're not flooded, the roads are gone. They're completely gone. So, okay, what do I do from here? He says, just head back down on this road to 40. You should be able to get through as long as it doesn't flood any more than it already is, and then reassess when you get down there. And that's what I did. This all power unit, it might really help us out, because if you look here, there are 2 ports on the side so that you can stack this system up on top of itself and add more batteries to it. So I really kind of like that idea that we can add to this system. And another feature that I really like about this is it has a feature where I can have this plugged into the grid and then have my freezers plugged into it. And what'll happen is the generator, the battery bank, will supply power to my freezers off the grid. But as soon as that power is removed, as soon as the grid turns off, this will automatically kick on, and it will power my freezers to keep everything cold. And if the power should come back on, it will kick back off and recharge this and allow our freezers to run it'll allow our freezers to run off the grid or off our generator. So that is fantastic. I really like that. And it also comes with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth accessible. Let's see if you guys can see that. Right now, I've got 38%, and it is charging, and I'm getting 5 watts of input off of these solar panels. And you can see they're pretty much completely in the shade. So it's a pretty good size solar panel array, and I think it would do very good. But we are going to be putting this thing to the test here on the homestead, and you guys will see us running it and see how it works out. But let's get back to North Carolina. So, boom, I get down to 40. There's no roads going north. I'm going to have to go south, try and get down into Georgia, and see if I can get over to 85 and go around the bottom of the Appalachians to get west. And I find this road, 221, it's going to stick in my mind forever, that would have ran from 40 down to Spartanburg in South Carolina on 85. And I get on this road. It looks good for the first couple miles. The road is about 40 miles long, but within 4 or 5 miles, I start running into big problems, guys. Now, this is a state highway, so it's meant for trucks to be on, but there's no shoulder. It's just a 2-lane road, no shoulder. And the trees are pretty much right up against the road. There's, you know, there's no grassy area cut back like on a freeway. Well, I run into trouble. I start seeing trees that have fallen over into the road, and they had cleared them, kind of. I've never seen anything like this before. If the tree had fallen in the road and it was mostly the trunk, instead of clearing both lanes of the road, they would cut the trunk with just enough room, 11, 12 feet for cars to get through and maybe utility trucks to get through. And it was the same if the canopy of these big tall oaks and hickories had fallen in the road, they would just cut a hole through it. And it didn't matter which side of the road it was. It was like zigzagging through barriers to get into a military base. It was the most crazy thing I've ever seen, where they just cut small sections of these trees out, just enough to let people pass through. And I dealt with that for about, I don't know, 15 miles, maybe more. Saw 2 trucks that had gotten hit by trees, but were able to get off on the side of the road to clear. I saw several cars off on the side of the road, and I drove over dozens and dozens of power lines. Power lines were just ripped out of both sides of the telephone poles. There were trees hanging off of lines over the roads. It was a pretty scary situation, but I was weaving my way down through, and like I said, I got maybe 15, 20 miles down, and traffic came to a stop, guys. Came to a complete and total stop. And I only had like an hour and a half, maybe a little bit more of drive time, because the amount of time that I can drive is regulated on my clock. So one thing I knew was I'm not backing out of here. This road's too narrow to turn a big truck around. I've got to figure something out, because I can't sit here in this traffic and then burn up all my drive time. If it reopens and I can't legally drive, well, what do I do? There happened to be a Dollar General right over my shoulder. There was no power anywhere in that area. It was closed. Luckily, I was able to get in there and get parked and get set up, and my plan was to stay there for the entire night and reassess and come up with a new plan in the morning. Well, I was there about an hour, and up from where the blockage was in the road comes a big truck, tow truck, and right behind it was a semi with a container on the back, a 40-foot container on the back. Well, this container was crushed in the middle, right down to the bottom, and even the chassis of the container that the container sits on was crushed. It was just bent. And they pulled into the Dollar General, and of course I got out and I was like, hey, what's going on? Is this why the road was closed up? And they had proceeded to tell me that yes, this is the reason why the road was closed up. He was trying to come up that road, and a tree fell on his trailer and stopped him in place. And while he was sitting there, another tree fell on the cab, and parts of it came through the driver's side door window. So the driver had to be taken to the hospital with nothing life-threatening, but with, you know, he got injured for sure. So I asked them, I says, hey, am I going to be able to go south on this road later in the morning? I was planning on leaving about 3 o'clock in the morning. And they said, quote, as of right now, you should be able to get through. as long as no more trees fall, because the crews came through and cut and they won't be back for a couple of days. That was very concerning. And needless to say, guys, my sleep that night was not, it wasn't the best in the world. Let's just put it that way. But I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I headed down that road, and literally the next 20 to 25 miles of that road was exactly like the beginning part. Weaving through trees, weaving through down power lines and down telephone poles. I went through 2 little towns, and it was incredible, guys, that these poor people are going through. You know, I went through this one town where the right side of the road, all the buildings were fine and intact, and the left side of the road, where the river kind of flowed over there, it just completely eroded all the soil, and there were buildings, and I'm talking like the main drag of this town, buildings leaning into the ditch. It was just devastating. So I don't know what those poor people are going to do in that area. They are going to be struggling with this catastrophe for a very, very long time. But I take a little consolation in knowing that what I am bringing out to Carolina is food. It's lunch meat. So hopefully a lot of that is going to end up in the hands of the people who need it the most. We're pretty happy with the All Power system. We're glad we hooked up with them. I think this is going to be a huge asset for us here on the homestead, and it's going to work out very well. Like I said, guys, you will see this in our upcoming house build. This happens in 3.5 weeks. We're starting to build the house. We're going to get it all framed up, and we're going to get it dried in. That's the plan. And this is going to be a big part of it, this unit. So we have a discount for this unit. I will leave the description and the link of how to get it down in the show notes, down in the description. Go check it out. It's a pretty good unit. I'm pretty happy that we have it here on the homestead, and can't wait to really put it through its paces. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.